Okay, so this was some high-level introduction about iPIP. Before that, I would like to introduce our panelists. We have our first panelist is Mohammed Adnan. Mohammed Adnan has done MSc in DevOps. Adnan is working in IT industry in the last couple of years, and I remember in 2003 we had worked together. So welcome, Adnan, into this very interesting DevOps webinar.
Thanks a lot.
Uh, we had a second guest speaker, or I will say our panelist, is Said Kazi. Said has done a master's in computer science. Said has a 20 years experience in IT industry. Said had worked in Verizon, in US, Nokia in Finland, IBM. Currently, Said is working as a especially in SRE side. So welcome, Said Kazi, into this webinar.
Thank you, Sir. Thank you very much. Glad
Uh,
to be here.
our third panelist is Eric Strong. Eric has done a master degree in DevOps as well. He did bachelor degree in computer science, infrastructure, 7+ years experience in DevOps. And Eric, you have interest in music and technology. So I hope we will be learning something from you. Welcome, Eric, in this fireside chat.
Thank you very much, guys. It's an honor to be here today to talk to you about DevOps. Thanks for inviting me along today.
Cool. So what we are at high level, what we are going to cover a very high level, 5 different objectives of this one. So we will be talking about what is DevOps. And then we will be talking about the DevOps technologies and security considerations. What as a developer or a DevOps engineer, what type of technologies and tools we will be using. The most exciting part is career path. So if you will thought, yes, DevOps is something is new. Oh no, it's not new. It has been used from the last couple of years. So what you will see yourself is in next 5 years. So we will be learning from our panelists. And to get on that road, what are the training and certifications we need? And in parallel, we will have a live Q&A. We will be getting some questions from Facebook, from social media, and I will be just chiming on those questions. So let's kick start about what is DevOps. This is very like a big. We know loads of definitions. Everyone has their own definition about DevOps, and I think since you guys have done a number of years experience, you did master degrees, and I think it will be exciting to learn from you. Eric, what do you understand about what is DevOps?
Yeah, so to borrow from Atlassian's website, it's a set of practices, tools, and a culture philosophy that automates and integrates the process between software development and IT teams. Okay, so what does that really mean? DevOps is a philosophy. It's not just a single role. It's not a single person's job. It's everybody's responsibility, and it's up to you as the DevOps engineer to promote a culture and a philosophy and a mindset around DevOps. Okay, DevOps it has an emphasis on empowering teams, communication, and collaboration. So it welcomes collaboration from multiple teams. You have your IT team, you have your development team, you have your infrastructure team, you have your security team. Everybody is all in the same paradigm. Like I said, it's a paradigm shift and a philosophy that you promote to allow people to take on DevOps. Okay, there are pillars to DevOps to kind of understand its core definition, and to me this is the most important part about DevOps. It's people, processes, and tools. So where you have people, you want to train and you want to encourage collaboration, like I said, and you want to have that mindset and that culture to allow people to share knowledge. In terms of processes, then you will establish yourself or you establish multiple processes to share information, to automate certain processes, and how you would promote all that is then through different toolings. So you would have multiple tools. One that pops into mind would be the likes of Confluence or Jira, where you would write wiki pages and have run books, and then inside of those run books you would have different toolings such as automation scripts, PowerShell, Bash, Ansible playbooks, Chef run books. So there's so many different kind of tools that we could talk about DevOps all year, but at the very core fundamental of it, it's people, processes, and tools, and together they form an ecosystem of collaboration, and you need to promote that culture. Then when you're doing DevOps in a company, DevOps ultimately as well breaks down silos. It encourages collaboration and removes what we call as the wall. You take software, my piece is done, and throw it over the wall, and someone else takes the code and deploys it. DevOps removes that. Like I said, it breaks down silos, and it encourages that collaboration then again. So that's my take on DevOps. I'd definitely love to hear if anybody else on the panel has a similar mindset of what DevOps means to them. But that's from my point of view anyways.
Adnan, I know you have done like a training, you're working in that space. How you understand what is DevOps?
Yeah, almost Eric has covered everything. Very great definition he explained, because the main thing is so many people has that confusion is DevOps is a role, but not in reality. In textbooks format, we would say that's DevOps is basically, as Eric explained, that is breaking the barrier between development team and operations team management, and make the process from development to deployment, all the processes in a streamlined format, automation. So that's is explained in very, very concise and better way. That's my take.
Saeed Kazi, I really would love to hear from you. Is like every company have their own DevOps, whatever the topologies and minds. And what do you understand DevOps?
It's been explained as Eric and Adnan said. It's a process, and to continue on from Eric's point about breaking down silos, I completely agree. We have to understand where DevOps came from, and it's really if you can share the I know you have a set of slides, Nazmi. Can you share the slide with DevOps and sorry, with development and operations? I think it was slide 4 in the slide deck.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah, there you go, that one, exactly. So the context is that development and operations team in the cloud existed as separate entities. As it says in that graphic, developers plan, build, and test software at a very high level of understanding. And operations deploy and maintain that software. The one thing that development loves and operations absolutely hate is change. When you develop, obviously, you're going to add features, you're going to add optimizations to your code, you're going to fix bugs. And so that means your code changes all the time. Operations don't like that. For them, any change is a potential time bomb that can, blow away your entire environment. So whether that's, any bug fix or something that's not tested properly or whatever. How do you now, as Eric also said, these are essential components of your cloud, portfolio. So how do you reconcile them? Well, you marry them together, and what we get is the dev from DevOps. The dev is development, and the ops is operations. So now you have two teams working collaboratively, where change is not such a scary thing for operations, and development also understand that any feedback that comes from operations is useful in the sense that okay, we tested this in our downstream environments, but when it went to production, it caused different sets of problems. This is feedback coming from operations. We have, I think Eric also mentioned this, that we'll have empowerment of development teams by giving them the authority to deploy their own code and deploy their own services at whatever frequency they want, whether that's once a day, twice a day. And I've seen in cloud native applications, deployments taking every hour. So it really is a part about as was said, removing silos, creating a collaborative culture, as Eric said, and both teams empowering each other in terms of the whole cycle, and improving customer services at the end of the day.
If it's okay, I'd love to add to this as well. Like you really touched off, like getting application code out to customers, and at the very core fundamental of what is DevOps, what is the point of DevOps as well, and it's to ensure speed, it's to ensure rapid development
Yeah.
and deployment. It improves collaboration, it gives you greater reliability and quality in your work, because you've got this entire paradigm and a philosophy baked in at the very start. And then you can enhance security then with the paradigm of DevSecOps, which is having security in the paradigm as well. And what that gives us at the end of the day is agility. It lets you get your application code out the door as quick as possible, so you can have multiple development cycles every day instead of one development cycle a week, or the dreaded Friday release, or at the end of a month or something like that. You're able to release every day, every hour, because you're confident in your automation, your pipelines, your collaboration, your reliability, with all the testing hooked in.
Yeah, I think this is, if I will just chime in on this one, this team operations, if I will go back maybe 10, 15 years ago, operations, we never know what they are doing, what type of infrastructure they are creating. And we were just zipping up our software component, and we were giving them, and we don't know what is happening. Debugging was the biggest challenge. Monitoring was the biggest challenge. And even to support, something happened there, and there's always something, no, this is the development issue or this is the operation issue. And now, since this is like a finite, like infinite loop, so this operation is going as you can just shape a small component, a small version of a code, and you just shape it, and that will go smoothly, and you can plan for the next release. And I think the time to market has been reduced by virtue of this DevOps philosophy.
Yep.
And the other thing is integration. Now we can shake hands with operations. Operations guys are sitting very next to us. They don't have a separate buildings. So let's go to a little bit more. The other little bit field is SRE, DevOps, infrastructure engineer. What they are like in commercial industry. So Said Bhai, if you could just add something on that.
Sure. So I think we've discussed what DevOps is. The role of a DevOps engineer really is two-faced. It's operations as well as development. Not development for the application, but probably development of automation to help your daily tasks into a more seamless and quick transition. So with regards to SRE, which is my role as well in IBM at the moment, SRE is really kind of a specialized DevOps role, in the sense that you are responsible for pretty much everything that happens on the environment, which is true for DevOps, an operations engineer as well. But beyond the operations duties, you look into things like into performance. You fix customer issues in production as well as downstream environments. You do a lot of automation, as I said. You're responsible for setting up an effective monitoring system when you're with production environments, and with I think we might later have a discussion on multi-tenancy as well. But when you have different customers with different needs, you are potential, and as your customer base grows, you're potentially looking at thousands of literally servers with different components within each that can go wrong, whether it's CPU, memory, disk, network, IO, anything. And so you want an effective monitoring system with effective alerting to let you know that it's humanly impossible for a team of 6, 7, 8 engineers to be looking at screens all the time and trying to see what's going on in thousands of servers. You want a monitoring system that will tell you, okay, on this, and that alerts you that on this system, CPU has been running hot for the next for the last 2 hours, let's say. So, let's do something about it. And then, of course, as an SRE, you action that. You try and fix that problem. Performance-wise, you get complaints about customers saying our such and such environment is behaving slowly. That's also as SRE part of your role. You're involved in fixing customer issues. Somebody will say that my application is not accessible. Have one issue, right? You want to make it available to your customers as much as possible. SRE revolves around a lot of the work of an SRE is ensuring that availability of your environments is according to SLAs, service licensing agreements agreed with your customers. This is described if you have SLA availability SLAs. People will talk about 4 nines and 5 nines. So 4 nines is 99.99% availability, and 5 nines is you add another 9, which makes it even difficult. So in reality, it doesn't work that way. You will always have downtimes. You will always factor that into your customer contracts. That realistically, you cannot have 30 minutes of downtime in 1 year. It's probably going to be more than that. So there are contracts adjustments that take place with sales teams and so on. But just to highlight that this is an SRE. Infrastructure engineer, platform engineering as a subject. Platform engineering really is all the operations SRE, but what you want to put in a system is self-correction mechanisms. So if it's a deployment, your automation should be able to just fire it off, and the system can deploy whatever files there are, whatever packages there are, and produce the output. You also want any issues to be self-correcting. If, for example, as example that I gave, if your CPU runs hot for a time, your environment should be able to either fail over to the backup, to the disaster recovery site, or do something that automatically alleviates the problem for the customer. So those are some of the things. I think just a difference of roles between SRE, DevOps, and platform or infrastructure engineering. Would love to hear what the others have to say on that.
So I just want to just a little bit reiterate this question. So in IT industry, is really a difference like a DevOps engineer, a second person could be a SRE engineer, a third could be a platform. Does these guys need to have a separate set of training certifications, or they just have a different roles within the DevOps world?
I think a lot of these boundaries sort of go away. Sorry?
They're overlapping with some of the.
Yeah, exactly. So they overlap, and all these, as you said, they overlap. So all the boundaries between what an SRE does and what a DevOps does, and or a platform engineer or infrastructure, they all seem to go away. Everybody does a little bit of everything, to be honest, and you wear different hats at different times. So when I see a job description of an SRE, I take it with a grain of salt. That this can mean, to me, SRE means this, but the job description can mean something else. It can point to a slightly different role. At the end of the day, I think these are buzzwords that are used for maybe selling the position. That's not to say that they're identical. There are definitely differences. But as you said, there's a degree of overlap between them.
So just while we are talking about this DevOps, why DevOps is very important for any digital company?
Because you see, the traditional software development model of on-premises, so where everything resides within the customer's premises, and they manage it, they own it, and they maintain it. once you move that away from the cloud, now you have on one cloud, you have different applications with different customers and each with its own requirements. So you need some kind of structure around a central team that manages all of your environments. So DevOps really becomes a necessity in the cloud. If you don't have DevOps, then there's complete chaos, because each customer will have different requests coming in, different problems that they have. Your entire infrastructure comprises of network, database, your computing power, your the whole thing. And unless you have a DevOps team that understands the intricacies of how they connect together, as well as each of the customer nuances, and understands the unique needs of the customer, it becomes very difficult to manage this. That's why I believe that in sometimes in especially when you're dealing with customer issues and you're on a conference call, somebody will say, get the DBA team on, call the DBA team, or call the network team, or call XYZ. As an SRE, you have a different view of, or even as a DevOps engineer, you have a different view of what is happening in the cloud. You're not specific to one area, you have a holistic kind of approach. And I also think that, as you said, I think in the past when operations was not there, everything either went to development, or this is a network issue, or it's a database issue, or it went to different teams. I think once you have this collaboration of DevOps between operations and development, they can synergize within themselves and agree to a lot of the problems, that where is this, how best to solve this. Development will do the creativity in terms of problem solving, and operations will help in the kind of how is it to be deployed, what's practical, what is not practical, the scalability problems, and so on. So I think once you have that, then your whole cloud portfolio is in safe hands, rather than when you don't have have a DevOps team.
Eric, what do you think? Like, why DevOps is very, very important for any company? I'm saying
Yeah.
anyone who is using a software and deploying a software on regular basis. Or you get it.
Yeah, I mean, to answer that question, it's like what's it going to be like without DevOps? You know, as I had kind of alluded to, you know, it's having a holistic view of your entire application out to the consumer. You know, picture big events such as, like, I don't know, Black Friday, or, you know, in around like Christmas sales and stuff
Yeah.
like that. If you were in e-commerce, you know, you're a seller, or you want to sell your items online, and you don't have a DevOps paradigm hooked in. Well, what happens when you get a huge amount of traffic on your website? You know, you don't have some way to scale out, you don't have some way to see monitoring eyes and ears on your servers to see if there's high load, things can fail over, you can lose a lot of sales, you can lose a lot of money, and your company can ultimately flounder because of that. You know, so having DevOps, you know, in any application, in any retailer or online, is the ability to be able to react, you know, and have certain paradigms and automation baked in so that you can auto scale, you can have monitoring eyes and ears logging on your application, you can have security, you can see that, you know, your application is not being DDoS attacked or something like that, and you can react to situations like that. But the most powerful part of that is you want to release a new feature on your website, you want to do some round of like A/B testing. Again, there's some more kind of terms that you will see a lot in DevOps, where you want to test a new release out to try out a new feature to a certain, you know, proximity of customers. They go and test it out, and then you want to do, you know, flip over to another type of application version, which at the end of the day, it's a deployment scenario that you would do as a DevOps engineer. You cannot do any of that without DevOps. You know, you need to have ways to ship your code very, very quickly, have people test it, have it delivered to your end customers, and be able to scale and react to any scenario. And without DevOps, that to me seems a very impossible feat to meet. You're going to have multiple teams. You're going to have cloud engineers, you're going to have network engineers, DBAs, software developers, everybody all scrambling to find out what is going wrong. And without a paradigm like DevOps, it's pure chaos, and it all just falls apart. So that's
Yeah.
my reason for why DevOps is so important, to
I will
retailers.
just chime on this one is a couple of years back, I used to work with a vendor. They had around 2,000 reps, and we were building a voice application. So we had a big team, and there was always a new requirements. There was always some defects, and we really want to make sure that 2,000 reps should be working 24/7. Plus, we have some sort of the NLU, natural language understanding. So we're doing the voice biometric, and our changes was going every day. And then we don't want to stop anything. Take the example of Facebook, take the example of Twitter, where we have thousands of employees, thousands of software engineers are continuously improvising the applications and they are deploying it. And there is a zero downtime. So I think this is one, once we will go in deep dive, the topologies, the methodologies, the tools we are using, where I think there was a time when we were saying how we can do a zero downtime for an application when you are deploying it. It was very difficult 10 years ago to answer this question. At this time, we have a loads of options. We can say that blue-green model and to go use this topology, use this process, and then you will have a zero time. While I'm just talking on this one,
Sorry, Nawaz bhai, just I want to add one more thing in that, because as a solution engineering, I understand. So for DevOps is basically, if you don't have a DevOps environment in your company or it's not implemented, so as Eric and Said bhai mentioned clearly, that it's completely chaos, and it's going to take long time to understand and pick up the bug or issue where it is. But if you have a DevOps, then they do all these things. They give you complete report, pinpoint. This is the error there. You need to look at, save time, and bang, you just fix the issue and life again. That's I just need to add.
yeah, there is just on the same side is there's another thing is DevSecOps, and we have GitOps. So maybe if Eric, you have an idea of what is this DevSecOps? What is doing?
So kind of like what my definition was saying earlier on about what DevOps is, it's the synergy, it's the collaboration. DevSecOps, then, like I said, you've got dev for development, ops for operations. You've got the word sec right in the middle, and that's for security. Okay, so DevSecOps is the practice and integration of security into your continuous integration, your continuous delivery, and your continuous deployment pipelines. Okay, by incorporating DevOps values into the software, security verification becomes an active integrated part of the development lifecycle process. Okay, now I mentioned a lot of buzzwords there. Okay, so if you guys are brand new to DevOps, you don't really have to understand what continuous integration is, what continuous delivery is, what continuous deployment is. Okay, ultimately those words just mean we're going to have a piece of software, we're going to continue to keep adding to it, keep developing it, keep testing it, but the term here for security is you're going to involve the security teams, and you're going to involve security mindset to all of this all the time. The example of that is, when I'm testing something, should I be using HTTP or should I be using HTTPS? Should I be using certificates? Should I be using tools that can give me vulnerability scanning, dependency checking? So where you got your software, your code, where you're using different libraries, should I be checking if any of these are insecure? Should I be checking if any of these are outdated or have vulnerabilities in them? So when you're building your code, always when you're building, you're scanning from a security mindset, okay, and involving the security team earlier on, very early on in the process, because there's not worse when you develop an application and companies spend millions and millions of capital to develop an application, and they finally get it out the door and get it to a production environment, and they realize there's a vulnerability. So that's, you know, that's a lapse in the entire process, and that's why we bring security into the process and bake security in very, very early on, to, you know, that kind of, that cycle that we have where you plan, you monitor, you operate, you deploy, you do your code, you build, you test, you release. You're doing security at every single step and every single phase of that. So where you plan, you think security. Where you do code, you think security. Where you build, you run security testing. Where you do testing, you run more security tests. Where you release, you make sure that the environments are secure. Where you deploy, you make sure you're using secure mechanisms to do so. And where you operate, you've got security baked in. So all through the cycle, you've got security at the mindset. So that's my understanding of DevSecOps, and there's many tools out there that give you an offering of that. But a lot of times it's put into the security hat on, and thinking from a secure standpoint. Don't use, you know, vulnerable code. Don't use well-known ports that can be scanned and attacked. Don't use, you know, it's really just using the good security mindset, and thinking I shouldn't be doing something silly like hard coding secure passwords and keys or whatever into my code base, where some hacker can go and easily get access to my code and, you know, hack me and get loads of money or something from me. So that's DevSecOps in my opinion.
So I like this one. This is actually, if you guys remember Log4j, this is like last year, that was a
Yeah. Node4j, exactly. Yeah.
This is the one of the thing is, if someone is using this one, security scans every night. And since that, I have seen a lot of like integration of security process, just to scan the vulnerabilities, just to scan the dependencies, just to scan the third-party jobs. Even now we are scanning the logs. So whatever this application is logging, is there any security loophole is there? So
Nawaz, just couple of points I just need to add. Eric, and you already explained like that. So standard wise, like EU standards, GDPR standards, and American standards for financial health. So that's also important part with towards the DevSecOps. So they put on that ethical issues, kind of these things. So it's all these things come up in that you need to be, because data breaches and all that stuff. That's DevSecOps very important for that part.
Yeah, governance is a huge thing there. Like you mentioned, if you bake governance into your application from the very get-go, for example, like Mohammed, you mentioned there, like, you know, the payment industry, PCI, you know, or, you know, if you're using some customer data, GDPR, baking those compliances and using like blueprints of, you know, secure frameworks from the very start, you are baking DevSecOps right into your application then from the get-go. It's a good point.
Good. Adnan, what's GitOps? This is also very buzzword, has been used a lot.
Yeah, you can say GitOps is kind of again, it's methodology, and it's focused around the automation mostly, and through your version controlling. If you are using Gitbucket, GitHub, GitLab. So what you do basically, I give you with the example that basically, for example, you push your code to GitHub, GitLab, any version control, and then you basically use the Jenkins server or any other server. You don't have to do manually to building the Docker images, containerization, but through Jenkins server or any other kind of CI tool, you just, you know, you automate your code. It's bundle up as a Docker image. Then it goes to Kubernetes is a containerization management orchestration tool. So GitOps basically your all things going on version controlling tool like GitHub, GitLab, or whatever you are using, and then mostly processes are automated. You just monitor on these things, going all the pipelines, CI pipelines or CD pipelines is automated, and all your stuff is, you know, saving version by version in your version controlling tool. So this is kind of like Argo CD, and kind of these tools are GitOps tools. And especially for the Argo CD, what it does, it it's basically it has a backward automation process that it checks if something is changed in your Kubernetes or backside your, and it's approved. Basically, the main thing is approved, and then it automates. You don't have to do manually or kind of these things. It detects itself and deploy as per defined process. So this is the GitOps definition.
Yeah, while we are talking, thank you, Adnan. While we are talking about this ops, uh, and we heard from, I think, November, December last year, ChatGPT, and I can say that everyone was using up to certain level this AI, but once ChatGPT came into the world, and everyone is talking, even my small kids, they are talking about what is ChatGPT, and there's a huge question behind. Obviously, as a software engineer, as a tech industry person, we know that there's some code behind, some models has been written there, and those models are continuously are improvised. Code has already is every day someone is going to improvising, writing on the code, so that the maturity is going to be very high. So obviously there is a machine learning part, there is the AI part, uh, and for those one, like Eric just mentioned about, you are going to consider the security, you're going to integrate that security within your operations full life cycle. Now, what's machine learning ops and what's AI ops? So maybe Adnan, if you can just give a little bit more lights on this one.
Yeah, sure. Um, so many people have confusion that's and not clear that's ML ops and AI ops. The ML ops basically machine learning and operations. So now, as you mentioned, Chat GPT and everywhere is now machine learning and artificial intelligence is coming up. So basically, for ML ops wise, is data scientists or data engineers, ML engineers, they are building the models, and it's going to in development process and deployment process and in production process. But they, as same practices for DevOps, we need backward versions and to backup kind of things. So same like that, exactly same process, but with the machine learning models. You build the machine learning model, you put into the version controlling, it goes to testing, it goes is according to your plan, it giving the results, it's data verified and everything, that it goes to the production. So AI ops, basically, so many people are confused with the AI ops. This is kind of similar to ML ops, or it's basically it's another process, but it's in different way. Is like a normally you gathering technical data or in big data form, refining it. So it's kind of prediction learning, you using machine learning models behind same thing, machine learning, all that stuff. But it's kind of you building AI ops application and all that stuff to realize the bugs and learning all that issues coming up. Then we are doing AI ops practices, and it's understanding the issues before the time, learning all that stuff and fixing the issues rather going to the downtime and all that stuff. So this is the AI ops.
This one. So if I understand correctly, so you are saying that before end user is going to raise a defect, or before someone is going to check the logs, this AI ops is going to just gauge the behavior of the application, a particular pattern, and based on that, it's going to advise you to work on that, and then
Exactly.
we're going to automate.
Exactly.
Like this is, this is what we can say. Each time when we are executing an application, we are generating a tons of logs in Splunk or maybe in Datadog or anywhere, and those logs, as is now, are getting very high importance. We were ignoring those logs altogether. We were not checking those logs. We were just checking those logs only once there's an error being logged by the end user. Now, those logs are actually the main health check. We are just raising loads of alerts based on the logs. We are just displaying a dashboard type of like a Splunk dashboard, if you guys are Datadog dashboard, where we are just gauging the application behavior. We are just gauging is the trend, the type of the user, where someone is going to log in. So this is something is interesting. I know that.
Exactly. And as you know that data is a new fuel now, and you have a ton of logs, and then you understand, oh, this because of this is the infrastructure like platform here, this kind of version, like other version of Linux doesn't have that problem, but if this particular version, this error constantly coming from different customers, so you can learn this one, and then you can work out to the fix that issue in particular version. So it saves your time, money for again and again the calls and customer system is down in particular version. That's so like that things you cover in this.
Perfect. Thank you, Adnan. I was talking with Eric yesterday, and Eric just mentioned that he has designed an application. And I just wanted to just maybe, Eric, if you can just maybe spend 2 to 3 minutes, high level of what's the DevOps consultation you did. I remember you had shared a document with me. So let me just share that one, and you can talk through on it.
Yep, that's no problems. Okay. Yeah. So this is a project that I developed recently, and I thought it was a good example to kind of to bring to the audience because it shows a lot of DevOps, a lot of different DevOps core principles. Now, to understand, like, what I mean by different practices in DevOps, I mean this example has an example of CI/CD, which is continuous integration and continuous deployment. It has the practice of IAC, which is infrastructure as code. It has the practice of automation, monitoring, configuration management, and desired state configurations. And those are the kind of key terms that you'll come up time and time again in DevOps. And if you can demonstrate or exercise these, well, you're doing DevOps really, really well, because you can share and collaborate with your development teams and show them how all of this works. Okay, so this is again, it's a very high level diagram of how this application was deployed through the DevOps process. And I'm gonna mention a few technologies here. If you guys haven't heard of them, I recommend you check them out because they are very cutting edge application DevOps toolings that you can certainly go out and use. Okay, so I don't know, can I get like controlled for a pointer, if that's okay? Am I able to get that?
Let me.
Probably help. If not, I can share my
Nawazma, you
screen.
need to make a host to Eric, then he'll be able to control.
I can just share my screen. I have the same image on my laptop, and I can show it through. Is that okay?
Yeah, you share it.
Okay, I'll share it now. Oh, you see, host disabled. Sorry, I think you need to enable me to do sharing on this, if that's okay.
Sure.
If it's not possible, again, I can just talk through the diagram. It's just sometimes it helps to show where the mouse is, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Can you share it?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much for that. Okay. Okay, awesome. So this is it here. Okay, it's the very same diagram. When you guys see my screen now, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so this here is the diagram that we're kind of discussing, and where we see DevOps. Okay, so first of all, there's probably some developers on the call here. The stack that I'm using here, I believe it's a mean stack. So it's Angular, it's Node.js. So Angular is my front end application, Node.js being my middleware, and MongoDB being my data layer. Okay, and again, developed all separately, to build an application. And I think at the time, this application is something simple as getting blood pressure or something for a person. You put in your blood pressure and that tell you whereabouts on the scale it is. Okay, it's just an example. You can do something like this with like a I don't know, weather application or something fun that you want to use. So anyways, I use this stack here. Okay, And how I tie all of this stack together is through the use of these different toolings. So Bicep is it's an infrastructure as code tool. It's a Microsoft specific infrastructure as code tool where you can automate and provision all of the Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud, to provision all infrastructure out to Azure. And I'll explain what that is in just a second. All of the applications then were built and deployed into Docker images. Okay, Docker is, again, it's a containerization technology where you take your application and put it inside of a container, and having understanding of containers really helps build on the further knowledge into containerization orchestration, which you can use tools like Kubernetes, or K8s as some people refer to it as. So now I use another tool called Helm, which is almost like a dependency manager for when you're dealing with multiple containers and services and versions and how they all tie together and communicate. And then Kubectl, which is a Kubernetes orchestration tool. It's a CLI tool that you can use to provision your Kubernetes clusters. Okay. So that's my stack, and these are the kind of different technologies that I've been using. Okay, now to kind of get started, where all of this belongs is an ADO. Okay, which is Azure. It's an acronym for Azure DevOps. Okay, Azure DevOps is it's Microsoft's platform as a service for DevOps. Okay, where it links in pipelines and repos and tests and things like Jira boards and stuff like that. So you have an entire process all baked into a single platform. And like there's multiple tools out there that are like this. And Microsoft's offering Azure DevOps is a really, really cool technology to kind of get started with. Okay, so in Azure DevOps, I then have an agent associated where I'm going to build my pipelines. And what I done there was, just to kind of get started, because I had all of these different toolings installed on my own laptop, I deployed what's known as a self-hosted agent, okay, which is a link back to Azure DevOps, so I can run my pipelines on my own machine. You can do this out in the cloud. You can do this on a dedicated Jenkins server if you wanted. I chose to do a self-hosted agent because I have Bicep, Docker, Helm, Kubectl all installed on my laptop, and I link it into Azure DevOps. So next, then, kind of moving into the paradigm really of infrastructure as code, again, is kind of taking my pipelines, which a pipeline is a defined set of steps to build your application code. Okay, and all of these pipelines have been baked into what's known as YAML. So another technology I'd recommend you guys get familiar with for DevOps, because you'll come across YAML time and time again in pipelines, in Ansible, in Chef, even in you'll see it in AWS. Many different cloud vendors and technologies use YAML. It's a markup language that you use for desired state configurations. So all of my pipelines are designed in YAML so that you can version them, you can roll back and forth. So again, baking kind of source control and version control into your applications. It all starts with the pipelines and your application code as well. Okay, so from there, then the YAML pipelines that I defined would be a continuous CI build, which is continuous integration, which is my ability to build my code, restore any dependencies, check for any security vulnerabilities. So using tools like Snyk, or using tools like White Source Vault. I think they've rebranded now to a new name, but it's using the CI, where you build your code, check your dependencies for security vulnerabilities, run unit tests, run integration tests, version your application, build your code into a container. So you've got a Docker file, you would package your Angular application or your Node.js application into a container, and then you would version it, and then eventually push that out to the ACR, which is Azure's version of the container registry. GitHub have their own ACR, GitLab or Gitbucket, they all have their own versions of ACR. I use the predominantly in the Azure stack in this case. So again, that's all baked in there. I then use Helm charts. So Helm is the dependency management. I use Helm charts then, where I would define how all of this stack talks to one another. So how the front end talks to the middleware, how the back end talks to the middleware, and how the chain of communication happens. So I define all of this in the technological Helm, and use a Helm chart as a deployment artifact, where I deploy this out to my eventually out to my infrastructure, which I'll talk about in a second. The Helm chart pulls down the containers and the versions that you want and spins it all up. And then finally, I use the ISTO, which is it's an ingress for performing blue-green deployments. It's almost like a traffic shaper. You can bake that into your Helm charts, and it's very easy to do. So you can do, like I kind of alluded to earlier, blue-green deployments or A/B testing. Okay, so inside of this pipeline, I then have a nice kind of a nice way to provision all of my infrastructure as code, and I've done all of that through Bicep. Now, because I'm dealing with Azure, it makes sense to use Bicep. But if you want to, if you've got multiple clouds going on where you're touching off AWS, you're touching off GCP or Azure, or even you're on-prem using like vSphere or something like that, you can use tools like Terraform, which are platform agnostic infrastructure as code tools. And exactly what I defined there is, for example, in Azure, in my subscription in Azure, I would build out a resource group, which is just a collection of where all your resources live, my ACR, which is my container registry, my AKS cluster. So that's going to be my Azure Kubernetes cluster, where I eventually will spin up multiple namespaces, have replica sets spin up, and then have a service. And my service is going to be Istio, which is almost like I said, it's a load balancer in such a way that you can perform blue-green deployments in. Okay, so how all this works then, again, I actually have a quick snapshot here, or a kind of a project. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes. So I'm showing Azure DevOps now. Okay, so this is the Azure DevOps platform where I was saying earlier on, you can get
Sorry.
dashboards.
Eric, I think we just see your diagram. Maybe
Okay, one sec. Yeah, one sec. Let me see.
Still the same. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks, guys. So this here is Azure DevOps. Again, it's like I said, it's Microsoft's offering of a DevOps platform, and where you've got dashboards, your Jira ticketing boards, your repos, and then your pipelines. So the majority of the pipeline lives in here under pipelines, and this is kind of what my pipelines look like, where they're all baked with YAML pipelines. So you'll have a process to build your front end to your back end. So the front end, like I said, is an Angular application where you'll come over here and you'll this is your job here, where you might get a version for your application, and run any analysis on it, run your npm install for your dependencies, run any unit test, code coverage. You'll publish your application, you'll run code analysis. You'll have a quality gate for Sonar Cloud. So again, this is DevSecOps as well, where you run your SAST or your DAST tooling to ensure that your static code analysis. I'd log into my container registry. I build my code into a container. I run any scanning on my container. So there's vulnerability checking on all of your containers. You might build that into a container, run any dependency management on that. And eventually what you do is at each single step, you're producing what's known as a feedback loop to the developer. So you've got your unit tests, you've got your code coverage, so they can go off and say, oh yeah, there's an important like TS file or component file where it's lacking in unit tests. I might write some. So again, gives you that confidence in your code. And then you can see any kind of Sonar Cloud static code analysis published to make sure you've got these quality gates baked in. That's my front end. My back end, again, which would be along the lines of something similar. You've got your feedback loops where you're building your code all through the same steps. You're running unit tests, code coverage, and producing any of your scanning, and then you'll have any of your different unit tests published, your code coverage, and any different extensions. So you can see that we're getting a failure here on the code quality, where the code quality should meet a certain criteria, so it's secure. Once all of this is built and baked, you can provision up your infrastructure as code using Bicep, and then eventually you would release all this out to a release pipeline. So release pipeline would go through multiple stages. This is just an example of one here again, which I ran some time ago. I was deploy up my infrastructure as code, which is my Kubernetes. I hook in all my logging. So again, kind of wearing the SRE hat, where I've got things like Kibana for logging. You've got Prometheus and Elastic for your monitoring. I would deploy my Helm chart out to my AKS cluster and into staging. And again, that just sends that out there so you can see it. And once you're happy that it's been tested, and you might run end-to-end testing at this point. You could then run it into you could deploy it into your production environment, and then do some form of a deployment strategy where you do a blue-green deployment, just flip your traffic over, and then have a backup strategy in place as well, where you might back up your database for any traffic or any new data that's been generated. What all of this means, again, I don't want you guys getting too lost in detail. You can get very, very technical with these pipelines, but you've got feedback loops, you've got infrastructure as code, you've got configuration management. It's all core concepts of DevOps that you can really hone in on and use for any technology stack. And in my opinion, I think Azure DevOps does it. It's a fantastic platform to allow you to do all of this from a secure standpoint, from a developer-centric standpoint. So it allows you to kind of check and ensure that everything is working fine. So that's my presentation on a sample application where I do this. So I'll hand it back over to you for that. But thanks again for your time with that.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting, especially there is a one buzzword you have used is infrastructure as a code. This is like in the industry. If I just go back to a little bit, is we used to have a tester, we used to have a developer, we used to have something operations, we used to have a security guy. I remember that was a separate team, and we used to have a Veracode. We actually ship our code to Veracode, and they just took maybe 24 hours. And they used to come with the email, the vulnerabilities on that side, and then after that is the operations are going to okay. I am happy or not happy, they are just going to create the infrastructure for that. So now YAML file, just design, just write down what you really need, how you need it, and what basis you are going to say yes or you're going to say no. So you automate it, you deploy it, you destroy it, you deploy it, you destroy it. So this YAML file is actually if I see is a team, full team, you're working together as a YAML file, and it's going to like creating a infrastructure, security checks, testing, and then even the relation of the prod and checking the monitoring, health check, everything, and then you are just sitting like this one. We always say the right button, click it, and system is started, and then to click the other button is destroyed. And because of this one, there's a huge cost saving. People have seen it. If we need only this application should be running between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But they were paying a lot of money from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So they at 7 p.m. they simply just load down the traffic or maybe just they destroy it. And they automate it. And that's what I'm saying is a 50% cost saving. And this is how the IT industry is making money, because they are just always thinking about how we can automate it and how we can just use a maximum benefit from those things. So I will go.
Yeah, that's what. Just I need quick thing. That's why the company's brought in serverless idea. So you.
Yeah. So I will just chime in on this one. The tools. I know Eric has discussed a couple of tools, but that was very specific to Azure. Maybe side by, if you can just give a little bit more insights about the tools in DevOps, what stacks, what tools we are using in general, and what are available.
DevOps tooling is a multifaceted thing, right? You use different tools for different functionalities. Monitoring is obviously important. So you will, if for applications that are cloud native, using microservices, I think Grafana is a good tool. Prometheus, as Eric was saying, I've used on some legacy systems, tools like Nagios, tools like New Relic, and others. So it's really about what tools are available depending on your particular needs as far as monitoring is concerned and how much they cost. Obviously, when you go into open source, then there are greater options as well. And open source can be flexible as well in terms of you can take you can develop your own tools. Right now, one of the tools that my team uses is IBM's homegrown tool called Instana, and it's completely developed by our teams. And because it's our internal product, it's free. So that's a major consideration when using. And it's also used because we know what we want to monitor. There are APIs. You can take those APIs and customize it according to your own needs. So tools like that are helpful. For deployment, Jenkins, Chef are a couple of the main ones that I've used. Of course, there are others as well. One of the things that SREs or even DevOps guys do is, of course, automation. So for automation, you must have to Ansible is the buzzword these days from Red Hat, and it's widely used as automating your deployment process, automating your maintenance, and automating a whole bunch of things that you can think of. And last, I think because we are all engineers, we need to be able to code. So I think Python and any degree of Linux system administration, whether you're a beginner or you know all Linux inside out, any degree of bash scripting that you can do to automate your Linux processes, your system processes, and things like that, especially as in when things go wrong at the environment level, your bash scripting is very handy. Any commands for optimizing your network, your database, all these are useful. Database wise, actually, also any database that you can, Oracle, SQL Server. In IBM, we are big on DB2, which is uh, kind of a legacy database, but I think another one they use. So AWS has, or I was only briefly exposed to it. They have a system called Cloudant, which is basically kind of gives you a snapshot of what is running in their database and things like that. And there might be others that are not coming to mind at the moment, but a hodgepodge of tools, really, a bunch of tools that one needs to be exposed to. Network wise, also, if you now again comes back to your Linux capabilities, but if you understand how traceroute works, if you understand how NCAT and NetStat and all those technologies work, it's helpful to debug issues and find out the root cause of problems. So yeah, those are some of the tools I think that are popular. There might be, I'm sure there are definitely others as well, and it depends on the environment that you're working in, your company, your project, what they use. At the end of the day, I think tools will offer similar value.
Yeah, I think
Whichever one you choose.
if I will just say is a minimum, if anyone wants to dive into that path, scripting, which is could be Python. Python
Yeah.
looks like is a must. If you know the Python, the lots of other tools are under your feet. You can write on any type of a script to execute and write on any automation. And this other one which you just mentioned, side by, is very important, Linux. If someone knows Linux, someone knows Python, so these are like a core skills. The rest is understanding the flow, understanding which type of the technology someone is going to implement. So on the same side is I think Adnan we are talking about on-prem and some sort of the cloud. So for DevOps, do we need to consider on-prem side of things, or this is always going to be cloud?
No, it depends basically company requirements. If on-prem means is private cloud or internal system,
Yeah.
depends basically. So many companies like SAP, IBM, or Intel, they have internal kind of on-prem clouds, basically like internal clouds, private clouds, and they are using open source. So it depends basically your requirement, especially for the cloud like AWS, Azure, GCP. They give you liberty in that sense. Basically, they have built like container registries, Jenkins as available, as a service, Kubernetes services, AKS, EKS, GCP, GKS. These services, you just one click, you deploy, and then don't have to configure. But on-prem, you need to write down your own file and image or Docker image, kind of these things you have to deploy, and that you have to do automation. It's all come to your budget, your company requirement. If you have a budget, you can go cloud. And if you want to do, like mostly companies are focused on open source, and then they can mold in their own ways. This is my take on it. It depends your requirement and your strength.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand this one. Is Eric, you just demonstrated your ideal application and Azure. We know AWS is a big player as well, GCP as well, maybe IBM, maybe someone else. So what do you rank is if someone is going to land into those words, clouds?
Yeah, I mean to add to that, like it depends on your preference. You could be smart and you could say I will go cloud agnostic, and I will do all clouds. And you could use tools like Terraform, which I said there. It's a or Pulumi or something where it's a cloud agnostic tool, and you write one script that works on all clouds. Okay, and you can bring your Kubernetes cluster to GCP, to AWS, to Azure, and you could probably try it on prem as well. Tools like that allow you to be cloud agnostic, but you have to remember as well, based on your experience and what you're exposed to every day. I personally use Azure every single day, although I actually worked at one point for AWS and I'm certified in AWS. I use Azure on my daily basis, so I am more comfortable with it because I use it every day. You have to remember use the technologies to your strengths. If it's something that you use every day in your role, you're going to pick it up quicker and learn it a lot quicker and understand it a lot better. So, make those choices on your preference. Don't go out and learn a language that absolutely nobody out there's no community is using. Go where the trends are going. See what the most popular tools are to use, or what the most popular cloud is. And you could go to Gartner and see what the most popular cloud is out there. They might say it's Azure, they might say it's AWS, they might say it's GCP, depending on the year and whatever the finance might say it is. But it's really to your disposal, and how comfortable you are with picking up tools and documentation. For example, like I feel Azure's documentation is brilliant for getting started with something. They give you dev labs to get started, one-click things where it spin up something very, very quickly. It gives you automation. It might give you a sample of Bicep or ARM where you can go and spin up your own infrastructure. It really depends on the support and the community there that's there as well, so you can choose what's best.
Yeah. To add another point around what cloud is the best cloud. A lot of companies now use an approach called hybrid cloud, which means they use or multi-cloud, where they use more than one cloud. A customer could have some of their processes running in AWS, some of them in Azure, some of them in GCP and other clouds, depending on what cloud offering suits one particular component. It's not even just that so you can break you can break down and say, okay, if it's a bank, for example, my auditing is going to run on AWS. My my financial aspects are going to run on this. My reporting is going to run on this cloud. So companies are now savvy enough to know that different clouds offer different advantages based on their different needs. So yeah, you can have multiple clouds within the one same customer.
Yeah, just on the same thing, Eric, you just mentioned about Terraform. Where we initially we were not thinking is vendor lock-in is the biggest factor. And actually, since AWS came into the market, then Azure, then the GCP, and then other cloud providers, and there is a very high level of vendor lock-in there. You ended up to use their services. And then these guys came there. Look, you have to create your something is infrastructure where you can just deploy it anywhere. You are not going to be locked into a vendor. I know this is a little bit of time constraints here, so I just want to have a one high level question in the technologies. I think is uh, maybe like we always talk about monolithic and microservices applications, and those applications are we used to have still as is now. There's a lots of monolithic applications in industry, and people don't want to change it. And since they have migrated their infrastructure from on-prem to cloud, and they are facing a lot of challenges because the less confidence, no testing, and what you will advise in those cases for like monolithic and mark and some Microsoft applications.
So
Yeah.
from my perspective, I think yeah, you're right. The amount of applications on for that had used monolithic architectures, they are still the dominant partner in terms of they have the dominant share of the applications. So migrating any on-prem application or even that's monolithic to the cloud requires a different mindset than developing something from born on the cloud, as they say. Using cloud technologies, when you asked me about what are the different tools, some of the tools that I missed were completely the microservicing tools, like Grafana was I said for some monitoring, but you have non-SQL databases like MongoDB, you have containerized databases like Cassandra, and then as I think Adnan Bhai was saying about Kubernetes and Dockers and all those things, those are actually important tools also to learn. I think applications that are born on those architectures that are microservice based are natural to the cloud. It's easy to deploy them. They because they reside on Docker containers, as you said, develop it, use it, destroy it. So that part is actually important because you can spin up something very quickly with a one click, and if it's not needed, you get rid of it. It frees up space. It does not limit you in terms of scalability. You can easily scale these functions by simply spawning more of those containers to hold your functionality, depending on your underlying hypervisor, the hosting tool, or the hosting infrastructure, which holds all your VMs. So it's much easier to do that with microservice architecture. With monolithic, it's a challenge. You have a big bulky application. You can't break it down into pieces. You cannot scale it up easily or as easily as you can scale up microservices applications. You need specific hardware to add, capacity to your whether it's application server or your web server or your database. So it's a challenge in terms of migrating monolithic applications to cloud rather than having cloud ready applications. However, as I said at the beginning, the majority of software is still uh, that which was developed before the DevOps model. So especially enterprise applications, which which are monolithic in nature. They are making it cloud native. Their later versions are probably architectured in a different way. So maybe in a few years' time, we'll see that difference. But yeah, just to say, I just wanted to point out a few of these challenges of deployment from a DevOps perspective.
Yeah. Gotcha. Eric, this just is something coming up in my mind is DevOps. We always talk when the DevOps coming, automation is came in the mind. So I'm just putting you in a challenging question: is DevOps without automation is possible?
It'd be very difficult to achieve, in my opinion. Like we talked about all those different technologies, scripting is a fundamental skill for achieving DevOps. Tools like desired state configuration tools like Ansible, Chef, Puppet, or even infrastructure as code toolings where you automate your infrastructure. Automation is a fundamental thing that runs through. Because remember what we discussed at what DevOps is at the very start. It's the ability to collaborate, it's the ability to break down silos, and it's the ability to, you want to bring developers and every other team onto the paradigm and onto the philosophy of DevOps. And how we do that is we automate, we rinse and repeat. We spin up a web server, we tear it back down, we go back to it tomorrow, we spin up, we tear it back down, get everybody into that mindset. And without having some form of automation baked in, DevOps would be difficult to achieve. I'm not saying it's impossible to achieve, but it would be difficult to achieve. Like there are other cornerstones of DevOps that you need to consider, like process, where you want to have some form of a process in place to get an application out the door. There might be a starting process, might be build your code, put it onto a server, where you might iterate and improve that process. Is you might automate the building and automate the deployment of it, and then even further automate that is automate the automation, orchestrate, as we say. You might have some schedule that starts up in the morning, spins up a server, deploys code on there, and then at nighttime spins it all back down to save costs. So automation is, again, at the very, very core of DevOps and how you achieve it. So it is an important skill and fundamental paradigm to have in DevOps.
Cool. Right.
Just quick, I just need to add quickly, automation is everywhere. Automation networks, even though in our phones, our alarm is automated. We wake up so without, as mentioned by the Eric, automation. It kills the concept of the DevOps, because then every team is sitting and waiting. Dependent, if you don't have automation, this is going there. Every team is again it's going to create silos.
Cool. No, I think we had a very dry talk, very difficult, loads of buzzwords, keywords, which maybe people will not understand it. I'm just going to switch into is for the career path in DevOps. What is the career path? So I'm just going to share screen for 1 second. I just gone into Google and let me just share it, then we can talk about this page. And this is an interesting one. So I just put in Google is DevOps jobs in Ireland. So this is as is today. I can see in LinkedIn is saying 64 new jobs as is today. And they're saying is 1,000 plus DevOps jobs in Ireland. And then if I will just go a little bit down, and I can see is Indeed is saying 744 DevOps jobs. And this is 11th of March, 466 DevOps engineers job. If we will go back to how much, that's maybe we will talk a little bit in a couple of seconds. But see the job market in DevOps jobs, which 1,000 employers are looking for engineers in a small country. And think about that is 1,000 plus 1,700 jobs. And this is only two. And if I will go to maybe Morgan McKinley and maybe other jobs, and they are just displaying a job in Dublin, and we are just seeing the jobs in DevOps title or role. it's like a lead DevOps engineer, senior DevOps engineer. And this daily rate is going to be a very big one. And like C is DevOps engineer, Azure. And there are few rates you can negotiate with your employer. You see, this is a DevOps job. So I'm just going to stop sharing the screen. What's the whole point is here is this is the the things we are talking is DevOps. We identify a minimum. If someone knows Python, someone knows Linux, and someone has a right mindset. First thing is acceptance. This is the like is philosophy. Just understand this philosophy. If someone is still living a 5 or 10 years old philosophy, he will not be a best fit for DevOps. This is something is yes, I'm going to create my own infrastructure. And my infrastructure is going to be such dynamic that I can deploy into anywhere. I am not going to be a vendor locker. I'm not going to be dependent on Azure. I'm going to deploy my database maybe in Azure. My application is going to be in AWS, and maybe my UI is going to be a third vendor. Then still they all can communicate. You can just build, deploy, and destroy my services. You are going to have a little bit a mindset when you're going to communicate with the client. You can give them a real figures based on the different vendors' prices, and you can tell them how much difference you are going to make it. Your philosophy, being a DevOps, how much difference you can make in relation to the time, in relation to the performance, in relation to the cost. And this is how, as a DevOps engineer, is making a huge difference. These guys are working directly with the CCPOs, CTOs, CEOs, where they're just saying, oh, this means that we don't need this stupid big infrastructure where we just need only this one, and we can expand, we can scale it vertically and horizontally based on your magical code, magical YAML files, or the talk about that. So it's a philosophy, and once someone understands that philosophy, it's very easy. You can just pick and choose as whatever best suit to you. At the end of the day, is those technologies are helping you, but you can choose any technology. You can choose Python. You can choose maybe a JavaScript. You can achieve the same thing. If you are good in Java, you can write down the same script in that one. This is the base. What we are saying is Python is majority is acceptable in all those tech stacks and tools.
Yeah,
So,
just I
yeah,
add, because if as a you want to start DevOps journey, so better Python, Bash, kind of these things, start programming, and Linux somewhat, especially if look into Red Hat and Ubuntu, because the majority companies are using these kind of Linux versions. So ideally, is for starting point, these things could be very good.
yes, yeah. So Adnan, I just want to ask, since you're talking, is
Sure.
salary scale. Hey, I just want to be a dev. I used to be a software engineer. Now I want to put a DevOps hat. And what type of the salary I will be expecting?
Yeah, in Ireland is the junior level scale is between 50 and 60, around 65K. And if you are a mid-level experienced engineer, it going from around 70 to around 85, 90K. And if you are lead engineer, senior engineers, around 85 to upwards 90, 95K, depends. And if you are on a daily rate, so it's starting around 352 onwards. So it depends your experience, you know.
Yeah, cool. So this is something is like I
It
have.
also, it's also, I just quick add, it depends what tools and stacks expertise you have. If you're good in Linux, different versions, and AWS, and kind of these things. So that definitely, and if you have some kind of Java experience, ultimately these things add up more. And if you have a mostly depend kind of a Microsoft service, it just depend on your expertise.
Cool. Maybe Said Bhai, you're working in this stack from the last number of years, and you might have seen a DevOps special type of the titles. So maybe you can just give high level is going to be a DevOps engineer? The,
Well, again, people advertise different jobs in different ways, and depending on your seniority, the title changes. But yes, you would start off as maybe either you're fresh out of college. You can be employed as a they might call it operations engineer, or a developer in operations, or something like that. As you grow, you become like a senior or a lead DevOps engineer. Beyond that, you become a manager. Now, when once you become a manager, then it's not just a technical side. You have people management responsibilities as well. People report to you. You're a line manager as well. Things like that. Then it really depends on whether you want to stay on the technical path or you want to go into management. Senior, uh, like my manager has the title of a senior manager, and so it's beyond manager. I think then you progress to maybe a director. There are also vice presidents. Some organizations, which I think I've seen one or two, and if the others don't have it, I think they will in the future, is the role of, as you have CIOs, Chief Information Officer, CFO, Chief Financial Officer, there will be something they already have COOs, Chief Operations Officer, but that operations is,
CTOs kind of things.
yeah, exactly. What CTO, exactly. Yeah. So Chief Technology Officer as well. So they'll have different, they'll have a chief DevOps officer or a chief operations officer or something. They'll find some words to to go with the title, but it'll be that rank. It'll be above the vice president level, where they will have. I think this will probably happen in bigger organizations, where they will have the mandate and the responsibility to drive the entire DevOps culture into the teams that report to them. This is more of a, you know, it's about extending the reach of the outreach of DevOps across teams. This is not just about projects or even customers. This is about company-wide the culture, trying to see how that can be propagated and where DevOps fits into that role. So from a corporate ladder, I think you start off as a basic engineer. Now, if you're experienced, you want to, if you have 10 years of experience, you're going to a new DevOps role. It doesn't have to be that you've done operations work before. If you come from a development background, you can fit into it, because even if you're a network specialist, you can fit into these roles. Obviously, you will plug in as maybe as a lead or as a senior person. You will not start off at the junior level, and the pay scales, what Anand has already said, I think will match up with that. So, but even if you're starting as a junior, there should be, or there is in many cases, and I think this will expand further as time goes on, there will be a clear path to top management for people who start off in DevOps.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Nawaz bhai, just quickly add one or two things. That's as Said Bab very deeply, very higher chance for the DevOps engineers to go into higher management, because they have clear picture of whole infrastructure, because they are deeply involved in every process. They understand process. They dealing with the hands-on things. So they're very higher chance to go COTs and higher level. And for the student or junior, normally the students coming out from the after bachelor's, they are mostly focused on development things, developing projects and developing. It's mostly universities, they are not getting involved with students in DevOps processes. But those wants to come from the just after college, they must do that thing. They deploy their school college projects in that fashion. Is they need to keep DevOps practices in mind. They should learn some open source tools. So once they are come out, they can explain, they can show, demonstrate, okay, I have done this thing, I've worked Jenkins or the XYZ tool. So the companies, oh yeah, this guy is potential, so we can have it. This is very important.
Yeah, I think this is also is important, is the right mindset. And obviously for software engineers, it might be a fast landing path versus if someone is going to start from new, because software engineer, he already has maybe a 50% understanding of these different type of technologies, tools, and you just need to just put a hat, just understand this philosophy, versus someone is going to land into that one again from day zero. It could be same, but I think from engineers it could be a little bit faster. That's my understanding. I have a very other interesting thought in my mind. Like if I have a number of years experience in as a software engineer, sorry, as a DevOps engineer, and I understand the infrastructure, I can manage a company with 500 applications. I know that what's happening, and maybe 200 applications. And now I am feeling myself a guru. And now I just want to start my own business. I want to tell companies, hey, I have this capability, I have this understanding, and I want to create my own business. And like how side by you will advise if someone has a number of years of experience, can they start any type of the consultancy or their own business, or what you see on this at this side?
Great question. I actually know someone who used to do this, not as a DevOps engineer, but he was a Java architect working for a company, and which would give him different contracts. And so he would go on consulting projects. These projects would be typically 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then they would put him on another project and he would go there. Eventually, after about 5, 6, I think about 8 years, not 5, 6, about 8 years, he decided he wanted to open up his own shop. So he did that, and he got some decent contracts, because as you work in different companies, let's say you have 10 years of experience, and you have certain places that you work. You've had about whether it's at one company where you've had exposure to different customers, and they know you, that you can they can trust you, and you'll solve their problems. Or if you've switched jobs, let's say 2-3 times within a 10-year span, you develop different contacts within each of your employers, and whether you feel that you are now in a position to sort of go on your own, the key thing is your own credibility, number one, your own track record, and the contacts that you have, because when you're solo, you're going to need projects. And if you can deliver projects, there is definitely, I think, a place for a person like that. You can work on daily contracts. You can however you want to structure your deal with your end customer. But I think the key is, first of all, knowing your reputation always follows you. As IT professionals, we all know that. So our reputation needs to be very healthy. We need to have a good profile. Technically, we should be sound. And then our contacts, how good are they? I think if those 3 things are in order, then we can definitely do this on our own and expand and flourish. I don't see any reason why we cannot do that.
Adnan, you are just landing into this path. You spend a lot of time doing your MSc. You are working in this space, and eventually you might think in a couple of years. Oh, you see that? Can you just go in to have your own business? You're mute.
Sorry, yeah, definitely. If we go back 20 years, when we came in Ireland, call center business used to be big in Ireland. There's every company and then they start outsourcing there because they thought it's offshore places, and become the network services. So same like that is very high potential, beneficial. I know the guy back in Pakistan, he's sitting there, he have few contacts from different companies in DevOps arena, I'm saying that, and he's making more money than us sitting there. Yeah,
True,
is
that's true.
at 10K plus $10,000 per month. He's just few contracts. So definitely, it is just one example I'm giving. So definitely, as a service provider company, um, some companies they just need to focus on research and development, and they don't want to get involved, don't want to waste their resources in operation side, so they outsource it. Higher potential.
Mm.
Eric, your thought on that side?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question. Just to kind of frame that, I'm very young in my career at the moment.
Mhm.
Although I'm very ambitious and very hungry, and I think you need to be that type of person to be in the DevOps world. You need to be hungry. You need to be always wanting more. Not be afraid to go up against the challenge. For a person like me, you've young enough in my career, I do see myself in the next 5 years going out by myself and doing this as a consultancy. And just back to Saeed's comment, your reputation is everything in this game. So having good communications with past people that you've worked with, people that you meet on forums such as this, people that you go to college with, that's going to build up your network and enable you to go out on your own and get that very first contract. Do your best ability, and then it'll spiral from there to get more and more and more. I think it's a very healthy business to be in at the moment, DevOps particularly, because you can go out as a consultant. That's almost like reaching the top of your game and saying, yeah, I'm good enough to apply my practices that I'm after learning all throughout the years, all the skills, that rinse and repeat model to get DevOps into a company, bring it in and automate that and get it into a company and move on to the next one, do the same and learn as you're going through it as well and improve things. Always be open-minded and be hungry to learn. So as Fleetwood Mac would say, go your own way. That's it. You can go out and do this and go your own way with this as well. And I think it's a great space to be in for.
Yeah, definitely. It's there. So I in the career path, what we have seen, there's a good salary, there's a good title, so this is a respectful title as well. And then we have seen you have opportunity, you can set up your own business. I think if someone is looking to just start a career in DevOps, and then the second thing is there are loads of opportunities. This is not something is you do as your degree or course or certification, and no one is asking for that. So you have to prove you did that one, a small course, small certification, maybe even a self-learning skills. And if you can prove it, there's a job in the market. Because at this time, there's a huge shortage in the industry for this type of the capabilities. Obviously, we just want to spend maybe the next five minutes maximum on to some high level is training and certifications. So what are the training and certifications are available? So I will ask maybe Adnan, you if you have some idea.
Yeah, it depends basically which side you land in. If you are going full-fledged some degree, so Ireland perspective, I definitely advise if someone looks in TU Dublin's DevOps program, because it's comprises with the process means the business side, also research side, and also technology and hands-on, all like major clouds. We, as I myself and I, we covered that course, and that course brought us into every cloud. Like we used GCP, we used Azure, we used AWS, everything we use. So if someone is willing to go a postgraduate course, so definitely it's a highly recommendable. And then another course I found recent few months back that is on Udemy. That guy, his name is Imran Thili, and I mentioned if you share the in the chat or someone if you slide that one courses. So that course is also very good. It's a short course, but that guy also covered so many good corners, and it's a very good course in short time to polish. Someone doesn't want to go, for 2 years part-time in master's program and just want to land in quickly in DevOps things. So that course is, and it has a I think is 50,000 plus 5 stars, very well explained course. That one. Other than um, I would highly advise don't go directly into the certifications, because without quite good experience, it would be hard. So do some courses, then go to AWS DevOps Professional Program or Microsoft. It's up to you what path you want to choose, but it's going to be a bit difficult and understand. So better to take some courses than go for the certification, especially like cloud associate program, understand the cloud technologies, then go to towards the DevOps. That's my take on that.
Very good, Imran. I know there was some slide you had shared yesterday is about the local configuration. I think this is related to Linux version you should be using or to learn the DevOps. So you want to talk about that one?
To whom?
You want to talk about the which Linux version you should use?
Sorry, yeah, as everyone, it depends. Some, also depend on the company's requirement. But as my experience, I've came across that's nine. I would say 70-80% companies are using ham Red Hat version, and now the Ubuntu is gaining a lot. If someone learn these two flavors, it's more than enough. It's going to cover, and rest of that other panelists can explain, because everyone has a different experience. But what I've seen in my experience in solution engineering, that's mostly companies use banks and all, right? Because both companies are providing very after sales service, so the companies, they are eager after sales supports, and also there's some companies are using open version, but again, it's all depends sales and service.
Cool. I think we have covered today a lot of topics, a lot of interesting information. I really would like to say thanks to Eric, to Said Kazi and Adnan for your time and to prep this one, to just join this and give this like a very, very precious time on weekend that everyone is just enjoying the day off. And I really appreciate for your time. Before I will just end it, I really want to reiterate about little bit about iPIP. iPIP is an open access platform for Irish Pakistani ICT professionals. We are doing a loads of knowledge sharing, webinars, fireside chats. We are doing some entrepreneurship webinars and chats where we have seen a lot of new companies have started up. We are building the bridges. We had connected with the different organizations within Ireland and in Pakistan, like government organizations like Pasha, like Pakistan Software House Association. We have connected with some business councils, chambers, where we just demonstrated is the capabilities and integrated. It's purely open access platform. So, and lastly, I would like to say that if you are an Irish Pakistani ICT professional and wish to support this idea, please get in touch with us and do join. Share your idea with us and help us to refine these ideas and join practically to deliver these aims and objectives. This is very important. We need to get back to the community. We need to share our knowledge, our good workings. Finally, is this IPIP is a professional organization, is envisaged by ICT professionals, organized by ICT professionals, and it is supported and managed by ICT professionals. Again, thank you very much, Saeed, Qazi, Muhammad Adnan, and Eric Strong, and we will be talking again. And if anyone has a question, feel free to ask. Eric, Said, Nan, if you want to just say some words, then we can go to the section.
Yeah, it was good opportunity for us to bring our experience and all that stuff. And Nawaz, so much thanks for providing this platform and arranging this kind of fire chats.
Yeah, I'm also extremely grateful to iPIP for providing the platform to showcase our knowledge. And I'm going to go home wiser and more informed after today. I've learned a lot. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Just add that as well, guys. Thanks again for the opportunity to come along and talk. iPIP looks to be a fantastic platform, and it's great to be involved. DevOps is brilliant. Give it a try. There's plenty of opportunities. There's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of learning to be made. So think about it. It's a good opportunity. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you, everyone. See you next time. Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you, Nazmi.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.